we can now blame it on alternate energy. Well, we're waiting for more geothermal. We're going to run these fossil fuel plants until we get more geothermal. The solar thing, back in 94, 95, in an IRP filing, HELCO promised, HEI promised, HELCO, that they would be ready to take all alternate energy sources in 2013. Well, in fact, here we are, a few days away from 2013, and they're capping solar. I mean, they're denying people on this island the opportunity to connect with 21st century energy. Right? That's what they're doing. And while I'm not an electrical engineer, the federal government saw fit to give me an amateur radio operator's license. In order to get that license, you have to take a test that you understand electrical theory. I can tell you why, when you pull the plug out of the wall, it doesn't run out on the ground. Right? I know this stuff. And it doesn't matter whether it's 1 watt or 1,000 watts or 1,000,000 watts. The laws of physics are the laws of physics. Electric is electric, right? So that's kind of sort of how I ended up in that job, because they couldn't snow me. And I got a calculator. So when they tell you that all of these stories that they have about their inability to balance the grid and all of these other things, I mean, well, geez, you go to California, they're doing it there. Germany, I mean, who gets 40% less sunlight than we do, has more solar on the ground than we do, gets more of its energy. It's a small country. Anywhere you go in the world, that's not an issue. Only here in Hawaii, because electricity is different here. Gotta be. That's the only answer I could come up with. Electricity's gotta be different here. We can't do it here because it doesn't work the same, you know. Well, geez, my math's still good. So anyway, they're capping it. They're making it more difficult. In a perfect world, I would like to see us all disconnect from the grid. I can give you a lot of good reasons why we should be working very hard to do that. I think a lot of people sitting in the room, of course, I'm talking to the faithful, you know, I'm preaching to the choir for the most part. The faces that I know, we're all off the grid already. We departed a long time ago. But I mean, there's a lot of things we need to do to help other people get off the grid. And we're going to have to work on that too. I mean, the grid is one of the great ideas of the 19th century. Still own a rotary phone, anybody? Or have you noticed your phone doesn't have a cord? Have you picked up on that part? There was a thing, I listened to the National Public Radio all the time, and they were doing a piece yesterday. One tree put 5 million people in the dark along the East Coast. One tree. And I'm going, I mean, that just as easily could have been summed up with a chainsaw. I mean, you know, when they talk about energy security, if I were back there, I'd be having word with somebody. And that this island is no different. I mean, if you look what happened to Kauai, I mean, I went to Kauai. I had some friends who lived on Kauai after Iniki. And that's an island that is smaller than the district of Puna. And it took them 9 months to get the whole island powered back up. So, I mean, basically, if you've got the solar, if your structure survives, the lights come on and the water runs, yeah? Anyway, I know mostly everybody wants to go and listen to Henry's talk. Henry and I worked on this integrated resource planning together for a decade. He's the executive director of Life of the Land, and he has supported us and our issues at the legislature and other places in government on Oahu for many, many years, and we owe him a great debt of gratitude, because the guys really carried the water for us. It would be a lot worse had he not been there on this island. Any more questions? Yes.
On Wednesday, August 1st, next week, County Council is hearing a bunch of bills again on some things you've just touched on. The energy, renewable energy feeder bill is on the agenda. Okay, we just talked about that earlier. The evacuation plan. What would you suggest that we all say, since the point of this is kind of educate us so we can educate them? What couple points do you think it would be very helpful for these folks to hit in their testimony?
Well, I mean, on the emergency response plan, it is there. Mike, on his little dissertation there, was talking about Mike Ardito, who was the person who drafted the community's emergency response plan as well as PGV's. And theirs has been implemented, ours hasn't. As I stated earlier, I'm ambivalent about whether they vote it up or vote it down. It works as well either way for me. I personally would much rather deal with Region 9 and go directly to the feds. And if they vote it down, we have a clear channel. There's no argument about whether or not somebody's going to do something. We'll have a piece of paper that says they are not going to do anything, and we can proceed down that road. Having said that, there are related issues to which it has consequence. And I don't want to open up this can of worms too much, but if we file under the environmental justice what's the word I'm looking for? File for environmental justice protection. That's not a technical issue. That is a civil rights issue. And that could also draw their attention to other issues as far as particular Puna is concerned, the way the county and the state is underserving us. So, and it could become a lot more complex than just PGV. And there's some upside and there's some downside to that. And I'll kind of leave it at that. It would be nice if the people who live here with us would do the right thing. I mean, just as a gut feeling. You know, we all live on this island and they should be covering us. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just because the political forces right now seem really strong towards promoting geothermal, if they have their way, what is it that would actually happen? Would more wells be dug in new places?
Well, the long and the short of it is, I think that they have just proven that there is no more resource beyond that which is PGV is sitting on.
What about Puna and Waimea? Aren't there places there they've thought about?
Well, I mean, they talked about Hula Alive. I mean, USGS, you know, the geologists who work here have said in writing that there's only a 30% chance that they'll find a usable resource. Same thing with Kauai High. So, and it would take decades to develop those resources. I mean, this is not something that's simply going to pop up out of the ground. I mean, You're talking about exploration drilling, flow testing, production drilling, more flow testing. To do it correctly, I'm told that's a decade's worth of work.
So the issue might switch to being a boondoggle waste of money issue as opposed to a health hazard, an actual physical hazard?
Yeah, and it plays into the hands of HELCO because they've got those fossil fuel power plants that they can continue to run because we're waiting for geothermal. Right? I mean, for them, it's a win-win. If there's nothing there, you know, if they win. So, yes.
Well, okay, yes, you're already addressing declining heat and all that probability of getting what they're drilling for. Couldn't that change if there was geologically,
If there's another intrusion.
whatever, yeah.
But the thing is that you really want to see how far down the rip it comes? I'm not anxious for that one. Well, I mean, the thing is, yeah, I mean, here's the game there. I mean, if it comes down the rift zone, it takes out the plant that's there. I mean, the resource is a cavity into which there's a heat source and there's seawater that flows into it. Okay? Groundwater and seawater that flows into it. That cavity could be filled, and that would end up with hot rock, and you can't do anything with hot rock. You can't turn a turbine with hot rock. So what they have could disappear. It could form another pocket somewhere else. And so you can start exploratory drilling all over again and figure out where that is.
Okay.
I mean, they've drilled all these holes all over the place, some of them legally, some of them illegally. I mean, Lyman did a lot of drilling in the years before the Clean Water Act because he had this be in his bonnet for a long time. I mean, this goes back to King Kalakaua and Thomas Edison having a conversation about using geothermal energy to generate electricity. Because I mean, the guy electrified the palace. He had one of the earliest seats of government that was actually had electricity to it. He was into it. So that's how the whole thing gets started. Had enough? Yes.
You said that they've been putting caps on solar. I'm wondering, is that like a more recent reduction to the reducing subsidization? Or?
No, this is, we won't give you permission to do a grid-tied system. Just about since always. They're just now admitting to it, right? That they're capping it at 15% because it destabilizes the grid.
Yeah, it depends on the district and the area.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, show me the math on that, I dare you.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm relatively ignorant in this regard. I have like an uncle and aunt who are on solar and who supposedly feed some energy back into the grid. Is that something?
Here?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, see again, they've thrown up all these things in order to put energy back on the grid. To actually make your meter run backwards.
Yeah.
You have to have a larger system than just a residential system.
Right. Yeah, more than just your home.
Yeah, and I can give you the physics of it. Why, in fact, they should be paying them for putting the system on the grid because it provides for grid stabilization. Mm-hmm. But see the way it works here. In the 90s, they ran these utility lines into the big subdivisions. They just put the lines out there, even though there were no people. Why would they do that? It's a thing called line loss. Because the more electricity we lose, the more we can charge all the rest of the ratepayers. Right?
That's crazy.
So you got, I mean, go. Go up to Hawaiian Acres and drive down 8 Road and count the number of customers that are on 8 Road. And that's a paved road, right? I mean, Athena and I fought them on the red road there almost to a draw, didn't we, dear? Right? For the customers? For 30 or 40 customers? I mean, the amount of electricity that it takes to light up a transformer. On a normal transformer, there's 5 or 6 houses on a normal transformer, residential transformer. You go along 8 Road, there's 1 transformer in 1 house. The transformer uses more electricity than the house ever will, just to keep itself warm. And who's paying for it? I can tell you it ain't me. You know, if you're hooked up to HELCO, you're paying for the privilege. And they did that over our objection. I mean, every environmental organization on this island and in this state fought that at the PUC.
You know what, the renewable energy theater that's on for Wednesday, they also ask in that bill for 2 public hearings with the PUC. I forgot about that. That seemed new to me.
Well, I mean,
So on Wednesday, August 1st, there's a county council meeting
Right.
at 9 a.m. There's a boatload of good bills on there that we've never heard before. There's a bunch of ones that got vetoed. I highly recommend you check the county council. Just Google Hawaii County Government and go to the website, or get on Barb's email list and she'll email you.
yeah, I mean, just as a matter of showing up to show face, I mean, I'll do that. I'll be there. Just to prove to people that we are interested, we are concerned, and we're getting educated. You know, because that's what it comes down to. I mean, the next thing we really have to do is start forming HUIs to help people get off the grid, to get disconnected. Yes, sir.
I'm wondering what you think of Ko'akua's grand plan, because the more I look into it, you know, they're making big contributions to state politicians. They told their investors and that they want to buy HELCO and Format and another geothermal company, but you heard Richard Ha deny the other day that he doesn't want to buy Format, but they're telling their investors that they want to buy Format. And, you know, their plan is geothermal on the Big Island and the cable. And they're gonna run the whole thing. And they're a private company, and they're registered in Hawaii as a foreign for-profit company. And he wouldn't tell me. You heard him. I asked him, you know, what country are they registered in? And he said he didn't remember.
Israel.
He's the chairman. No, that's Ormat.
That's
Ormat's actually in the U.S. They used to be Israel, and then now they're in the U.S. So they say we're a U.S. company. But if you look at their stockholders, they're Israelis.
Same stockholders.
That's how they get the money. That's how they got the money from the stimulus for their geothermal projects. That's the stuff.
I mean, again, it's a money game. You look at all of this, I always go to who wins and who loses. Tell me who the winners are and tell me who the losers are, and then you can pretty well figure out what the game is. Right? I mean, HELCO, HEI, they win. The consultants win, no matter what. And the consultants contribute to political campaigns. I mean, I don't know how many of you went to the Leilani Dog and Pony show the other night. But I know at least 3 of the faces, Hilo people who are managers. And they watch and they manage.
What do you mean, manage what?
Manage the presentation to make sure that it goes their way. That the people they've got up there say the things they want to say, want said. So, and of course, they line it up in such a way that there is going to be the people who get invited are already supporters by and large. The list of the people who live in Leilani, would you believe I didn't get an invitation? Can you imagine? I'm crushed. They didn't invite me. You know, I can't imagine why.